What is happening now in the United States of America may not be visible to the eye, but it is like a powerful political earthquake. By the way, before the end, I'll show you who John Bolton, our former one, was spying on. Well, kind of like Kissinger, he was with Trump for a while. Events are changing so rapidly that even cable news network can't help but admit the complete and hopefully final failure of the policy pursued by the Democratic Party. They called it woke, and we say it's stupidly leftist. But let's start with what seems like a harmless topic, the cost of illegals, and see where that leads us, ladies and gentlemen. They invest in the economy. The New York Times told us they pay taxes, Obama said. They are future consumers. They replace the unborn white Americans for us. That's what left-wing sociologists tell us. The question is, will we take their word for it? And I have a suggestion for you. Under no circumstances should you take their word for it. We need to check every sound they make. So, the education of children of illegal immigrants currently costs us $70 billion every year. The education of children of illegal immigrants over 12 years of school is $840 billion. Even if we stop accepting illegal immigrants now, build a wall, and none come in, it will still cost us $840 billion, nearly $1 trillion. With inflation, it's now $1 trillion. Medical care for illegal immigrants is $22 billion a year. There are many other social programs as well. The costs of catching and deporting them are included here too, right? They brought them here, and now we're at least trying to get the criminals out of here. The cost of keeping them when they're caught, they count the ones who are hiding. The Democrats' democracy in the United States spends $150 billion a year on illegals. That's only the direct and visible expenses. And what do they get? After all, we're told, oh, they participate in our economy, they pay us taxes on purchases, and other aggregate taxes that are paid to the country by illegals. But it turns out to be $32 billion. So the net expense is almost $120 billion. But we know that the Democrats stole. Budget funds are meant to help the elderly, the disabled, and large families, something they've fought for a long time. So that, as they say, they can rob us as much as possible and distribute, so that people vote for them. Now it's this money. They ended up with two groups of people in need, one group of people in need. The second freshness is Americans. The first is the illegals. So even the funds that were allocated for forest irrigation, well, the illegals have been embezzled, the woman has been embezzled, not just into their own pockets, though of course into their own pockets too, but part of it went to support the illegals. That's what KRU led to losses in the billions, even if you count it. That it, so to speak, burned out, and now there will be billions in losses again, but we don't count that for the illegals, right? So even if you count the direct expenses and hidden expenses without considering everything that happens when a crime occurs, that's, let's say, 120 billion plus 120 billion. Actually, it's even more. Considering the deaths, people killed by illegals, fires, diseases, deaths because funding was taken away from the sick, and so on, that's 240 billion in annual net losses. 240 billion. Now who's coming to us? Yes, that's why we're spending $240 billion. Perhaps there's an essential goal that our society and country truly need. 90% or more are illiterate, uneducated, and either unable or unwilling to learn. I've met people who have been here for another 20 years. Not a word in English, just yes, amiga, and similar phrases. But everyone bought phones. So if they need something, they just translate it right on their phone and show it to you or send it to you. Yes, so people who don't understand anything about the republic they've come to, the basics of our way of life, what individualism is, why we've succeeded, they don't understand any of it. They see things, want them, come here and get envious. Black people were corrupted by handouts back in the day, and now very deliberately by freebies, handouts, and more freebies. So their families were broken up, millions were sent into fatherlessness, onto the path of crime. When there's no father, the chances of a child turning to crime increase 2 or 3 times, though I don't remember the exact figure. Now they're corrupting Latinos too, whose divorce rates have also risen. In 2000, the divorce rate was 6%. Now, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, it's become 27%. I'm not mistaken, 27%. Already by 2025, that's a quadrupling. Editor. Mainly under the pressure of American new morality and tax policy. Very clever, which makes people, so to speak, or rather, suggest to people, it's better not to get married or get divorced. Then you'll get paid more. Democrats are giving handouts to illegal immigrants, so they'll fear losing these benefits if another party wins. Then it's easy to push them into illegal actions. Well, they're just protecting their lives, protecting their well-being and their families. But lately, it's true, awakened white people, and by the way, us minorities too, who have the same concerns and goals as working-class whites, have started to come to their senses. And
the numbers show that the Democratic Party is in complete decline. These numbers are so bad that even cable news network can't distort them anymore. So far.
I haven't forgotten, click or tap the bell. Please, thank you to the 2,000 viewers who did this over the past 2 weeks, but we need more. Please be so kind. So, political upheaval one after another, and then a third one.
The Democrats are facing an absolute nightmare of a question. According to the latest Quinnipiac poll, just released, the Democrats in Congress received a devastating approval rating of 26%. At the same time, 67% of voters disapprove of them. That's a staggering minus 41% net approval. The Democrats have a negative approval rating. This is one of the worst approval ratings for the Democrats in modern polling history, one of the worst ever found by Quinnipiac. In contrast, while the Democrats' approval rating is dropping to a record low, President Trump is actually gaining support during this government shutdown. Again, you can't make this up. The Democrats are collapsing and Trump is gaining momentum. Cable news network's own data analyst Harry Enton was forced to admit something his network didn't want to hear. Trump's net approval rating actually increased during the shutdown. We're talking about Donald Trump's net approval rating during the shutdown, specifically the 20 days since it began in 2018. In 2019, Donald Trump's net approval was dropping, and the shutdown hurt his popularity. It had already dropped 3 points and was set to fall further. He was declining fast. Move to this side of the screen. This shutdown did not affect Donald Trump's support in any way. His net approval rating actually increased by 1 point. Popular support. So the point is that the first shutdown during Donald Trump's first term in 2018-2019 hurt him, but this one doesn't hurt him at all. There is no real reason for Donald Trump to say, at least when it comes to popular support, that he wants to end the shutdown. But the
main thing, the most important thing, is not the ratings, but that the Democrats have given Trump the absolute legal right to shut down any government programs. Well, there's no money, so the authorities have to decide. The authorities have the administrative, so to speak. Yes, they have to decide what to spend on, what not to spend on, to choose. That's the law in America. And to fire unnecessary federal employees, from his point of view,
Trump has already announced that he is permanently cutting Democratic programs, including the $20 billion infrastructure project in New York. By the way, Schumer spent 15 years trying to make this deal. It's dead and he will continue. They're freezing billions for Chicago's transit and Cape Cod Canal bridges in Massachusetts.
Trump cut that. He's cutting billions from clean energy projects in blue states like the California Hydrogen Hub and the Pacific Northwest Hydrogen Hub.
They are considering eliminating another 10,000 federal jobs. I mean, he and the director of the Office of Management and Budget, Russ Vought, they're thrilled. So the Democrats' approval is dropping, Trump is gaining momentum, and then came the moment that revealed everything.
The Democrats actually have the same problems as Putin. Neither of them can end the war. So it's not Putin, but our Democrats, without getting anything substantial. Their ordinary members, the party ranks, will say, "Why did you shut down the government? What did you achieve?" Like with Putin, so Finland and Sweden joined NATO? Well, so to speak, factories are burning, so to speak, coffins are flying home to Russia in quite large numbers. And for those, our liberals, Democrats, socialists, their favorite programs have been shut down. So, about robbing the working people, a bunch of Democratic Party members were fired. 90% of the bureaucrats are members of the Democratic Party. If you fire their kids, that means you got rid of 9 Democrats. So what have you, the leadership of our party, achieved at such a high cost? Again, just for a second about Putin, what has he achieved at such a high cost? He killed 500,000 soldiers, clashed with much of the world, and halted the country's progress. And what? The Democrats can't just give up and surrender. Then their left wing, will simply rebel. But if they continue, it means the left wing will be happy, but the right wing is already rebelling.
We have another Democrat who just made an embarrassing mistake live on air. Do you remember Chuck Schumer's disastrous comment just a couple of weeks ago when he said, "Every day gets better for the Democrats"? When the government shuts down, each day military families miss paychecks benefits the Democrats. Every day that first responders don't get paid, it gets better for the Democrats. It was an awkward mistake that made it seem like Democrats were playing political games with ordinary Americans' lives. Well, guys, guess what? If you can believe it, it happened again. Look at what Catherine Clark, the chief Democratic whip in the House of Representatives and the second-ranking Democrat in the House, said in a recent interview with Fox.
I mean, government shutdowns are terrible. And of course, there will be, families who will be affected. We take this responsibility very seriously. But this is one of the few times when we have leverage. Yes.
We know you're suffering and feel your pain, but that's the price Democrats pay to show our influence.
Seriously, if a politician doesn't act in the interests of the people who elected him or her, then at least he should be smart. Well, at least smart. And not say that we have leverage to steer the country's policy wherever we want. We know that it's at the expense of those who don't get paid. Well, 90% of them are Democrats, right? So to miss such an opportunity, leverage, we can. Even though it's bad for you, we can't. Fool though she doesn't really seem like one.
These Democrats are so unaware of themselves. They're literally shouting for everyone to hear that they're willing to let American families suffer for their own political gain. In the end, they admit that the government shutdown isn't about principles or policy, but about political power. The Democrats are holding the country hostage for their own political gain, and they just admitted it on camera. The entire editorial board of the Washington Post, you won't find a more liberal publication in the mainstream media. The entire editorial board sharply criticized the Democrats. From the very beginning, they said this would be a disaster that they wouldn't be able to reverse. Essentially, the editorial board claims that the progressive left wing of the Democrats led their party directly into what they are now facing. They call it a shutdown trap set by Donald Trump. And from day one, they understood that Trump would get everything he wanted, while all of this would backfire on the Democrats. What
is the Washington Post claiming? That Trump thought through the situation before the Democrats started shutting down the government? And he said to himself, let the Democrats start their nasty games. We'll let them bury themselves. We won't interfere. And the Democrats got stuck because the young socialists were demanding action, demanding a fight, not for something, but just for the sake of fighting. Not to achieve goals that, from their point of view, could improve the lives of Americans. Fighting for the sake of fighting. Fighting for the sake of fighting against Trump. And they got stuck. That's what...
Trump will get everything while Democrats get nothing. And the Washington Post, not just a cable news network, published a headline just a couple of days ago. The Democrats set a trap for Trump, but they might fall into it themselves. And it was the same thing. The article admits that in the end, Trump gets almost everything one could wish for in terms of power and control over Washington, while the Democrats got nothing, literally nothing. They are waiting for what they want, while Trump gets exactly what he wants, and they keep waiting. This is an entirely one-sided confrontation. We can continue. United States of America today is clearly placing the blame for this shutdown on the Democrats. More and more traditional media outlets are admitting that, unlike in 2018 this time, Trump was prepared.
I agree with that. Trump learns quickly. He was fooled once, but don't dig the same hole in the same place. Silly you are, Democrat. He already knows how to respond. This has already happened once. He patiently waits for you to walk into the trap yourself.
Democrats closed the government to protect subsidies for illegal migrants rather than keep it open for Americans. It's really that simple.
Short and to the point. And people, realizing this, are shocked and they leave. They leave the Democratic Party. That's what the new applications to the Democratic Party in California showed. In 200 days, Republicans added 48,000 new members in California, while Democrats gained just 197. Not 197,000, just 197 new party members. That's 240 times less than the Republicans. This is no joke. 240 times less. And the politicians, realizing that voters are leaving, decided to join the winners.
Elected Democrats are abandoning ship. We have another Democrat switching sides, this time from Alpine, New Jersey, Councilmember David Comfortschmidt. He just switched to the Republican Party and officially endorsed Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli. And Comfortschmidt didn't hide the reason why he left. He said the same thing we keep hearing over and over from all these defectors from the Democratic Party. They did a study. Democrats are switching to Republicans 4 times more often than Republicans are switching to Democrats. I mean, it's not even close. It's striking. But he said exactly the same thing. He said basically the Democratic Party doesn't represent us anymore. It's a party that's becoming almost unrecognizable as it increasingly embraces the most extreme, radical, progressive elements in American politics. And as a result, Comfortschmidt becomes the first Republican on the Alpine Council in more than 20 years. And he specifically noted his former party's refusal to condemn the far-left radicals, while praising Jack Ciattarelli's common sense on issues like taxes, cost of living, and crime. And this has become a recent trend among Democrats in New Jersey. Just a few weeks ago, the mayor of Garfield also switched to the Republican Party to support Ciattarelli. Again, he pointed out how the Democrats have simply abandoned the working class in favor of the most woke and absurd policies imaginable. In short, the collapse of the Democrats is accelerating with historically low approval ratings for the president, who is winning the battle for a shutdown. Tone-deaf leaders admitting that they are using the suffering of families as leverage, and now elected Democrats are switching to other parties. The writing on the wall. Americans are witnessing in real time the complete detachment of the Democratic Party from reality. When your approval rating is minus 41 and your own elected officials are switching to the Republican Party, you're not just losing, you're in total collapse. Here.
Tell this to your friends, or even better, forward it to someone who still doesn't see what's happening. By the way, for Californians, vote no on Proposition 50, which was created to prevent Trump from cleaning up the country. And also, if you need a tax deduction, our nonprofit will give you a deduction for any donated amount from $200 up to $100,000 or even $200,000. But that's only for Americans, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, we can't help Germans, Israelis, or Ukrainians with that. But, so to speak, we have what you might call the right to such a write-off. The donation link will be in the description. Please, any amount you can give. I already showed you one black American woman telling the mayor of Chicago right to her face that people hate her. Here's another one, also black, but this time she's in North Carolina.
No country would allow people to come and not recognize its constitution, legal system, and laws. They wouldn't tolerate that. So, do you think I can go to another country and set my own rules for living, use whatever language I choose?
Several Democratic lawmakers, including Charlotte State Senator Caleb Teeters, criticized Cunningham's remarks. That's the idea. The comment suggested, and I'm paraphrasing, that one culture is inferior to others. I think that goes against everything we teach, even to our children. Teeters didn't say that Cunningham should be replaced in her district, but he noted that representatives should speak out against what he calls bad policy. A civil war has broken out among Democrats in North Carolina after a bold state lawmaker
Spoke out and
decisively broke ranks.
with his
Party defending America. First of all, to the shock of every Democrat in the legislature, what you are about to see will absolutely amaze you as you witness the split in the Democratic Party that is happening across the country and how it is currently reshaping American politics like never before. You won't want to miss this. And
It's happening all across the country. The management is trying to sweep it under the rug, so to speak. They're trying to convince us that it's just a lover's quarrel, that it's just bickering or something like that. But this isn't just bickering anymore. This is already a war.
meet the Democrat from Charlotte, Carla Cunningham. A few days ago, she spoke at a North Carolina legislature session to make a comment about a bill, Bill 318 on mandatory enforcement for illegal foreign criminals, which would require North Carolina sheriffs to call immigration and customs enforcement agents before releasing an arrested illegal immigrant who has a detention warrant.
We were naive, we were exploited, and various tactics were used against us to obtain citizenship in America. It's time to wake up. We need to establish new rules to address this particular migration issue that we are facing in our country, state, and cities. We need to end this crisis. Conveyor belt. Let me tell you what happens when a female lawmaker like me decides to act differently. Yes, I was humiliated for my voice. Yes, I was called a racist for my voice. And yes, they said I was trash. I understood this. They want me to stop elevating the history of my ancestors. They want me to be silent in my own country. They want me to follow their priorities while my people and my community continue to struggle in our country. Isn't this your country? This is my country with the good and the not so good. This is my country, tears of thee. Now, if you want to adapt to my country, not isolate yourself and come here legally, I welcome you.
But today I'm telling you, I'm not going to stay silent.
Carla has already been persecuted by her own people for having her own opinion. But she seems to be one of those people who are pretty hard to shut up. And here's another not-so-happy Democrat, so not exactly happy. Her fellow citizens are having money taken from them, stolen from the working population, but it's not given to her friends. Instead, it's given to those from abroad. She's terribly upset about it. We rob our hard-working and high-earning people for ourselves, not for some guy who came from abroad. That's the essence of her speech, but I agree with her. It's better to keep it for our own people.
All I can say to you is that you are a disgrace. I'm 80 years old and I've never seen anything like this. I grew up in the South during the Jim Crow era, and the policies you're implementing in this city remind me of those times.
By the way, this is Chicago again, and we're talking about Jim Crow laws. This is a system of racial segregation that was directed against black people in the slaveholding South of the United States. And the woman in Chicago is speaking, as I mentioned, and she's addressing the same mayor of Chicago.
I had to drink from the colored drinking fountain, while white people drank from the white fountain. But you know what I didn't have to worry about? About coming back to my community and finding it destroyed, and everyone else in my community except for black people. And that's what you did with this immigration. You allowed all these people, you brought all these people into this city. You are destroying this city. And the Black community is flooded with all these immigrants, violent prostitution, gangs. That's what you did to Sinomu. You're doing this to your people. You are an absolute disgrace to me. Like I said, I drank from that colored fountain, but I could go back to that Black community that was whole. Women are crying, taxes are rising. What am I supposed to do with my children? Where will we go and live? It's because of you. Brandon Johnson, you are destroying the Black South Side part of Chicago with your policies, all under the Democratic Party. You are a disgrace.
I agree. He is a disgrace to his country, his city, his race. He is a disgrace, period. Along with him, the governor and all the city council members are a disgrace too. Who allows what the Democratic Party has done and continues to do across the whole country, and now in the states where they are in charge? Yes, in this video I am using reports from Dr. Steve Turley. For those who understand English, I highly recommend subscribing. And don't forget to click the bell on my channel right now. So don't put it off for later.
What if I tell you that? The man who wanted Edward Snowden to literally be hanged for leaking classified information has just been charged with 18 federal counts for the same thing. But as it turns out, his actions are even worse. The details of his actions are quite shocking, but now a new question arises. Who did he do it for? Stay with me until the end of this video for a shocking new twist in the John Bolton saga that mainstream media is trying to hide. A foreign adversary, a compromised email account, and of course the Biden administration, which turned a blind eye to it while at the same time using the legal system against its political opponents. Buckle up, these latest revelations are going to blow your mind. As you all probably already know, former National Security Advisor John Bolton has been charged with allegedly mishandling classified national defense information. The investigation, which actually began 5 years ago, was closed by Biden's Department of Justice. Again, supposedly this is all part of the other side of their defense. This is exactly weaponized legalism. They turn a blind eye to their friends while legally punishing their enemies with fictitious, fabricated charges. This accusation is incredibly ironic. While Bolton openly supported the FBI raid at Mar-a-Lago, which was directed against President Trump for keeping presidential documents that he had every legal right to possess, at the very same time, Bolton was sending secret intelligence information to his daughter through an America Online server. Yes, you heard that right. An America Online server in 2025. And now we find out that the FBI under Biden looked the other way. Bolton is accused of passing over 1,000 pages of top-secret documents. Sensitive compartmented information is an abbreviation for sensitive compartmented information. This is the highest level of classification in America. He is accused of transmitting thousands of pages of sensitive compartmented information documents to unauthorized individuals using personal email and messengers. The indictment shows that he documented diary-like records from intelligence briefings, situation room meetings, and covert operations, and then sent them through Gmail, America Online, and encrypted chat to two relatives whom the source identified as his wife and daughter, neither of whom, of course, had clearance for classified information. Honestly, the charges are frightening. I mean, the first count is about intelligence on missile launch planning by foreign adversaries. The sixth count includes direct quotes gathered through sensitive human intelligence sources, and the eighth count concerns details of a United States covert action operation. I mean, these weren't notes from some general policy discussions, guys. These were the crown jewels of American intelligence, including signals intelligence, human intelligence, and information marked no foreign, which means you couldn't share it with foreign nationals. Now, actually, things are getting much worse. Federal prosecutor Ron Chapman is a former Marine who has handled a number of national security cases. He has a great video on his YouTube channel. federal prosecutor, Ron. Former Marine. On national security.
Bolton didn't just send materials to his wife and daughter out of stupidity or carelessness. He sent them so that someone could intercept and copy them.
Bolton himself told National Review a few years ago that Bradley Manning deserves to be charged with treason, which is punishable by death. He really did say that Ed Snowden should be hanged. His exact words were that he should swing from a tall tree. He hoped that Julian Assange would get at least 176 years in prison. Bolton didn't mince words about the disclosure of classified information and its consequences. That deserved the highest measure of punishment.
Bolton has said many times on television that anyone who discloses classified information should be, and he said, executed.
Now it turns out that a foreign actor was indeed involved in this. And now we know that the Biden administration knew about this but deliberately covered it up. On July 6, 2021, a representative from John Bolton's office informed the FBI that, quote, someone had gained access to Ambassador Bolton's personal email, and it appeared that this someone was from Iran. Hackers believed to be connected to the Islamic Republic sent threatening messages to Bolton, saying they were going to publish a number of edited sections of his book, which they had accessed after hacking his email. And now here's the explosive detail. Apparently, Bolton never informed the FBI that the hacked account contained classified national defense information. He simply reported the hack and asked for the compromised account to be deleted. And the Justice Department under Biden completely agreed. They said, no problem, go ahead. No raid, no search warrant, no interrogation, no seizure of devices. At least that's right. Bolton was one of them, a member of the permanent political class. And one of the privileges of that membership is that the law doesn't apply to you. You are literally above the law. Any counterintelligence professional knows that when a foreign adversary hacks an account containing classified information, you immediately seize all devices, check all systems, interview all participants, and conduct a damage assessment. There is a clear protocol, but under Biden, the FBI did not follow it. Instead, Attorney General Merrick Garland allowed Bolton to remove the evidence, while at the same time appointing Jack Smith to actually search President Trump's home for keeping presidential documents, which he himself, as the head of the executive branch of the country, had the right to keep. So think about the timeline. In July 2021, Bolton reported that his email had been hacked by Iranians containing top-secret information. Biden's Department of Justice does nothing. And then just a few months later, Trump's home is raided, and he is charged with keeping secret documents that he, as a former president, has the right to possess. And then just a few weeks after that, in August 2023, Biden's own Department of Justice, as part of a special investigation, stated that Biden is too mentally diminished to stand trial, but is still capable of remaining president. Do you remember that? I mean, the whole system stank. When all is said and done, this case exposes the two-tiered justice system in a stark light. When Trump's political enemies mishandle classified information, Biden with documents in his garage, Verna, Clinton with her private server, Bolton with his hacked Iranian emails, the Department of Justice yawns. When Trump keeps presidential documents that he is absolutely and constitutionally authorized to have, the FBI raids his home and charges him. Mainstream media welcomes this, ignoring some things and exaggerating others. Bolton called for Snowden to be executed for exposing government surveillance of Americans. Bolton wanted Manning to be charged with treason for exposing war crimes. Bolton demanded that Julian Assange rot in prison for the rest of his life for publishing leaked documents. By Bolton's old standards, what punishment does he deserve for handing over America's most sensitive intelligence to unauthorized individuals whose accounts were then compromised by foreign powers?
An astonishing story, but I'm afraid it's a common one. For people who have decided that they are the aristocracy and we, well, how can I put this more gently? We are the plebs. In Russian, I think it's called bydlo. Basically just the people, the ones who remain silent.